The first was Jay Shetty. Jay
Super
used
awesome.
to be a monk.
Yes.
And he was, I would say he's got one of the more famous podcasts in the world on brain health and communication and just being enlightened, I think is maybe the best way to put it. And so I'm sure a lot of you have heard about him. Some of the quotes in his speech, I'm just going to bring up and then we'll jump into the first talking point. But the number one skill that leaders should have was called associating, spotting connections where others see anomalies. And we'll talk about what that means here in a little bit. If you don't learn to communicate in their language, your idea won't land. Meaning when you're communicating with a staff member or another family member, friend, or spouse, if you don't communicate in their language, your idea won't land. As a leader, we must remind people of their inherent power. Question was, when was the last time you saw the world through a child's eyes? That was a pretty interesting part of it.
I like that part.
And lastly, what do you feel you belong to? What is your reason for being? And I think that's probably ties to what is your why, purpose. We talked a lot about that. The first thing which tied to what we do, obviously, he talked about removing barriers to health. And he explained that the foundation should be to remove the barriers to good health so the body can heal itself. And so I think really what I took away from that was there's a lot more to health than what we always envision it to be. And it can become a lot more from stress, not communicating well, a toxic environment, things that you don't maybe put on the priority because you feel it's easier to just buy that supplement, to just hit that treadmill, and to not actually do the hard things, which is communicating with people you don't like. That's tough to do. Crucial conversations. Removing yourself from a toxic environment or a work environment you've been in for years and you can't get out of it. That is hard.
Very hard.
And lastly, removing stress that you've maybe had for years. These things are going to be the tougher things to do, but those are what he really focused on, making sure that you should be prioritizing among the other things. But doing that will allow us to heal and to truly thrive.
I like that part with him. I also like when he broke apart different communication groups.
Yes.
Could you imagine? I think in the room there was. Do you guys know how many?
7,000, 8,000 people.
Wow.
Yeah, it was a lot.
That many. So could you imagine 8,000 people, let's say, in a huge room, and he's having people try to move off to the front left side, front right side of the whole room, back left. And then he broke apart each communication styles.
I remember it was introvert, extrovert, and then people and task.
Yes.
And so he always said that, okay, you got the extroverts who are people. So 100%, 100%, the most extroverted you can find. And then you got the introvert task people who never want to see daylight. And they're just like, he goes, those people don't like each other. But imagine working together and having to communicate. And he goes, it's different. So back to the one quote, which was, if you don't learn to communicate in your language, your idea won't land.
Yes.
And it's so true. Imagine trying to bring a introverted, task-oriented person into a brainstorming, extroverted, we'll call it session.
Yes.
Good luck. And even if you're trying to will it, even if you do get them in that room, they're probably uncomfortable and they probably aren't going to want to say much. And these are just things that you'll have to deal with day to day.
So you can see that point of view. When you're communicating with someone, you have to communicate at their level just so they're able to upload it and understand what we're asking or what is being said at that time too. So I thought that was incredible, but just to see it from a large scope perspective on how everyone's moving, it's a different perspective of things.
It broke apart the groups. It was interesting to hear.
Absolutely.
Yep.
I actually like this point, skipping ahead here, but in terms of childlike creativity, in terms of asking some of the top CEOs of how they're able to be creative with their products. I think what they asked, it was Steve Jobs. Said that if you want to find purpose or find a creative outlet, go off, get away from work and just get out into either nature or just spend some time alone and start pondering things. And they relayed that message back to when you, and the quote was, when was the last time you saw something through the eyes of a child? I think that is so true. I can remember back when I was younger and playing the sandbox, and as a kid, obviously there's no worries. There is just different perspective of things in terms of how you look at situations, how you look at the world. Yeah.
Yeah, honestly, I think kids sometimes can be the most honest and the most real with us sometimes. We even see it in here with our younger patients, right? Removing yourself from that work overload environment, just getting out. Don't even worry about that. Find something else to fill your mind. As we get older, everything starts to be more logical. Start marking your calendar and making to-do lists. Everything has to be in this order, where a child is just free and honest.
That's beautiful chaos.
Beautiful chaos.
Beautiful chaos.
I saw this video yesterday about when we get older, we oftentimes wish we were younger. When we're younger, oftentimes we wish we were older. So there's a lot of analogies like that we could make all throughout life, but I really like that talking point. And then even going back to what Dr. Adi, you were saying, trying to communicate in their language. I'm young, dude. I'm learning about that in relationships, even family. But a big one here is in this clinic. These people are often a little timid. They don't know what they're doing. There's a lot of people here. Who are these people? Are they going to be able to help me? So to be able to not come at them with all this science knowledge and crazy terms, we have to sometimes be their friend and just act like we're just there to yeah. We really do, and that's why I really want to pursue this. And I don't know, that's why I'm so passionate about what we do and why I'm so excited to go to Parker.
You just said the word care, which I love the quote. They don't care about how much you know until they know that you care.
Yes.
This is in business, this is in sales, this is in any real occupation. The second someone gets in front of you and you're trying to help them, whether it's sell them something, whether it's to help them with a service, something, if you just start spouting everything you can think about regarding your service, regarding why it's better, and just come at them, they are going to glaze over you. Yeah. But if you say and try to get on asking questions about them, trying to figure out why they would want that, truly care about why they're in front of you. Yeah. It doesn't matter what you know. Yeah. They just want to know that you're there to help them and care about them. Yeah. That is 99.9% of it. Yeah. The rest is just telling them what you do, how you know what you know, and sometimes they don't even really care. Yep. They don't really care.
They want results.
Yeah.
100%. And I think that comes back to both. You guys are both highly emotionally intelligent individuals. You guys read the situation quite well. If a person looks like they're intimidated, if they look like it's overwhelming, I see both you guys with how you go about talking to one another or that patient. Like for you, you make jokes. You enjoy the company. And I know, Corey, you relate to that individual more on a personal level and then build up from there in small chunks. And so it's cool to see from, I guess, my perspective on how each person can take a situation and read a person and then make them feel comfortable in a setting. I think our whole staff, honestly, does a really good job.
Agreed. Seriously.
You guys especially. So it's cool to see application.
Just to touch on that real quick, I think you just find one thing that you have in common with somebody and you can make a connection, you know? 100%. So not saying it relationship, it has to go somewhere as a patient or even somebody at the store or something. Just find something in common and that's how you spark a connection, regardless of if it's friendship, relationship.
And it's getting harder for the younger population, unfortunately. I think they're used to that spark coming from a message on their phone to another person. They're used to, some of the people's best friends now are who they played video games with online. They never met these people. So that's what their spark came from. Not to say that you can't go out and do that still, but it is harder for people. For sure.
Very
and
well
so
stated.
I think practice makes perfect. Associating is the number one leadership skill. I won't touch too much on that. He basically said that power is in the opposites. And the best leaders are the ones that can spot connections where others see anomalies. And so a lot of the times, he talked about the polarization of the world right now and how it's easy for us to block that maybe opposite out. We don't want to assimilate ourselves with the opposite. We just want to believe what we believe. And we only want to surround ourselves with people who agree with us and believe us. And he said that the best leaders in the room aren't the ones that they're the smartest. They're the ones who can connect with anyone.
Connect the dots.
Random people. He goes, and you're going to want to make sure that you have random people in your network. Because when you have questions on let's say a subject, topic, project, he goes, the 5 people you know are going to tell you what you already probably think. The one person you don't know, they're going to tell you something that you probably aren't going to hear from those 5. And that's where power comes from. And so I really liked, that was probably my favorite part of the speech.
And I think that can come back down to not only for in person, in like people you work with, but also like our network of providers. Because when you look at a condition of any time someone comes into, let's say, our clinic, if we only look at through only our lens of chiropractic or physical therapy,
Right.
there's also a psychological component. There's also other aspects of
Nutrition,
like
diet, all that.
perfect.
Yep.
And then family as well can be coming up from the bottom, which also affects this individual. So
Yes.
taking different perspectives at whatever that they have got going on will only help better that person. So it opens up. Do you know other practitioners? Do you have other connections to maybe ask questions for that individual? So it goes above and beyond just the workplace. But yeah, no, it's opening up and connecting those dots.
Yes.
I like how Jay said that. And
100%.
yeah, that was good.
Awesome speech.